to the Robes Away channel. I'm your host, Mark, and welcome to your Taking a Test Drive Thursdays. And we are delving into the brand of by Kilian, and this is the sandalwood hype beast called Sacred Wood. Now, by Kilian or Kilian, the brand, to me is like Xerjoff. Fancy bottles, fancy boxes, fancy this, fancy that. But the juice inside seems inferior of what you're paying for. You're paying mostly for the multiple boxes that you're getting than an actual high-end set. And that's my thoughts on the brand. Now, Kilian has made their name through mostly boozy sets because of their heritage and gourmand sets. That is their bread and butter. They do well in that lane, but what about highly authentic sets? They're not known for that. Well, this is the one that people say is the one that they knocked it out of the park as far as an authentic scent, as far as a sandalwood based set. So we're gonna find this out together with this test drive. Of course, it's only several days of testing. It's not a full-fledged review, but I have a very good grasp on what Sacred Wood is. It's a very simplistic scent if you take it at face value, but at the same time, behind the curtain, there is a lot of complexity behind this release. Now, before we get into anything, I wanted to thank our sponsor of the day, FragranceX.com, and you can get a bottle of this on their site. Check out Fragrance X. Support me by utilizing coupon code ROBES08, which is my YouTube handle, in their coupon section to get 15% off on your purchase. Now let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. Release date was back in 2014, and then of course got re-released a few years back. Nose, Calice Becker from Givaudan fame. She has over 100 scents to her name. Over 40 of them are just by Kilian. Think about that. Over 40 by Kilian. They really like Calice. Now she's done, of course, some of the greats, Taste of Heaven, Amber Oud, Back to Black, Intoxicated, among others. She is widely known within the community as one of the noses behind Tommy Girl and J'adore by Christian Dior. So a very, very good resume. Major notes to my nose. Of course, this is a sandalwood based scent, and you're going to get a lot of that in this release. That is paired basically equally with cedarwood. Cedarwood is going to be toned down a bit to really spotlight the sandalwood. Cedarwood can have its rough edges. Not here. And elemi is a huge X factor in this release. I didn't know how much elemi there was in here until I unboxed this thing and smelt it, and I'm like, wow, that is it's a huge note in this release. So it's not just Milky Sandalwood. End of review. So this one was part of the Asian Tales range, which was axed a few years back, and then people went crazy. So the story on this one is, I remember initial launch of this Asian Tales line, very ho-hum on YouTube. No hype on none of their fragrances. I was there. Then it started climbing as something that was almost like a folk's tale, almost like people started talking more and more about this particular release. Then the line got axed. And of course, the ball started rolling on the hype on this, so the ball started going a little bigger and bigger because it got axed. People are getting that FOMO going. Now it's back in the Kilian range with a line called Les Bois des Caves collection. So it's in a collection now. You can tell easily by just the different type of cap. I got, of course, the old school fragrance, and it's supposed to be, this release is supposed to be a recreation of Mysore sandalwood, Indian sandalwood versus the Australian kind. And in my personal opinion, Calice and by Kilian did very well with this, we'll say, simplistic scent. So it is my scent of the day today, but I'm going to remind myself of this introduction. And this scent has, now that I sprayed myself, I am going to live with this all day. It has surprising longevity, and we're going to get to that, but right off the bat, it really shows me why it's named Sacred Wood. It's one of the softest, most beautiful, light, woody scents that I've smelt in my journey. The 1-2 punch in this scent are, of course, the cedarwood and the sandalwood. Now let's tackle the cedar first because it's the simplest one to tackle here. It gives the scent a sawdust appeal. Cedar is usually much more pronounced in scents, depending, but here it seems like it's just mildly added to the fragrance to give that woody oomph to the fragrance. It's perfectly balanced with the sandalwood, and making way for the sandalwood, which is something that is rare. Any woody scent, and you have cedar and sandalwood, I don't know, it takes some trickery there to make sure that the sandalwood is the front runner, and they've done well here. Again, very airy and transparent for woody scent, and that kind of doesn't go hand in hand. But in here, it's simply outstanding. It's really well done. Now, the third wheel is not much of a third wheel, is the Elemi. And the Elemi is absolutely outstanding. It is a star of a third wheel. Usually the third wheel is kind of, no, let's not put it to the side. It's actually right there with the 1 and 2. What it does, it throws off its familiar citrus appeal off the top. And cedarwood does that too, so it really plays well together. It also gives a mild peppery accord, which again, cedarwood also does, so it really plays well. There's a balsamic quality, of course, it's a resin. It has a slight incense undertone, and you're gonna get that here as well. So the Elemi is really three-dimensional in this release. It's out. Not only is the sandalwood great, cedarwood's a really good secondary note, but the Elemi is like just that X factor that gives Sacred Wood all of its personality personally. It really does well in the back end of it. It gives Sacred Wood some depth, complexity, where you may think that there's none in this release. It's just a milky sandalwood. Oh no, the Elemi does outstanding in here. I can't emphasize that enough in this release. So anybody that owns this and didn't know about that, go check it out. Wear it now. At this point, I picture the woods kind of almost being, you know, almost green and a little coconutty even. It had like a little bit of that, what was that scent that I smelt there? Radio Bombay from DS and Durga. It has that feel, a little bit coconutty aspect to it a little bit. The green aspect reminds me of kind of like milky sap, the same kind when you cut the stem of a dandelion and there's like kind of like a resin there, almost like a latex resin, I think that's what it's called, out of the stem of the dandelion. That's kind of what I'm getting here. Very vivid, very well done. Now, while writing briefs about fragrances, especially some that I absolutely love wearing, which this is one of those, I tend to try to think of some sort of imagery attached to the scent, and this scent brought me to a lot of places. The first thing it brought me to was freshly split logs. There's some shavings on the ground, but it's never too pronounced. Like when you're thinking that, you're thinking really hardcore woods, but it's just so soft. The logs are split. There's some dusty aspects a little bit. It reminds me of a sawmill. Other times it kind of reminds me of a gym flooring that just got stripped of its wax, and it's going to be getting waxed before the school year is coming. It reminds me of that. Like you can really smell the wood that just went through a little bit of, I don't know, something industrial going through it. And there's no metallic tinge in this release, at least from what I'm smelling, but it just feels like everything else. It just has a little pinch of spice here. Like the Elemi here gives off this peppery spice, very mild, but it also has cumin in here that's there to help. Now the cumin, don't be worried, especially people that get worried about the when that word comes up. It's not big, bold, it's not anything crazy. And there's also a vegetal quality in here, like almost an herbal vegetal quality in the opening of this fragrance. Really lots of complexity behind those closed doors of just a milky sandalwood. Now, Sacred Wood is advertised by reviewers as this creamy, milky, lactonic sandalwood, right? End of review. Don't get me wrong, there is some lactonic qualities here, but this scent, honestly, when you're looking through a lens of a fragrance reviewer, it's very dry. It's not as creamy as advertised, in my opinion. The smoothness in the scent is aided by something in the mid. I want to say kind of like an ambrette seed, even though it's not listed as a note. Ambrette gives off sweetness, musky qualities, floral powderiness, which is, it's all here in the mid of this fragrance. The finish here reminds me vaguely of like an iris. So there is something in this mid that's not in the published notes that really does give the sandalwood, aids the sandalwood in the smoothness of this fragrance, but really well composed here, going through its stages. Now, the longer this stays on your skin, the more you're going to find out that this is a quite linear scent. There's not much going on. If you didn't like the start, you're probably not going to like the finish here. The ending of Sacred Wood, you lose some of the personality, which is very much minimal. but those pieces did give it some depth. So you lose that citrus, of course. You lose the spice. The spice is gone at this point. And at this point, the scent goes on my skin kind of like, it reminded me a little bit of a barbershop soap, sandalwood soap that I use in my beard. I mean, it really smelled like that. Even the foam and everything, it really felt like thin, clean, but like a added sandalwood scent to the soapiness. It was very interesting. It turns creamier than it did in the forefront, and the woods are still your 1-2 punch, the cedar and the sandal, and you get a faint amount of smoke here, but it's barely there. So at this point, at the end of this fragrance, as far as hour like 3 or 4, you're in a sandalwood ride for several hours with no changes. This is not going to change on your skin. It's classy, it's simple, and it's just basically well done. Overall, Sacred Wood reminds me of the brand of Comme des Garçons and their heavy woody scents. Think Wonderwood, Hinoki, Comme des Garçons 2 Man, pick one. Personally, I think Kilian beat them at their own game. If you ask me, it feels more refined and more balanced in my personal opinion. But Comme des Garçons is not in this game to be super authentic. They're not here to make you smell refined. Comme des Garçons is not. A lot of their fragrances are off the wall. That's what they are, highly synthetic. This is just a great simplistic scent. At the end of the day, that's where I'm going with this. And this one's gonna get compared to, you know, the big boys in the sandalwood game, the simplistic sandalwoods, you know, the Deep Tick release, among others, but it's right up there with those. Now let's get into seasons, day night versatility, and performance. Seasons, all seasons. Versatility is the name of the game of Sacred Wood. I feel like it's a tweener. If I have to give it seasons, I feel like tweener seasons would be great, where the you know, it fluctuates from cold to hot, so spring and fall, but it works in all seasons. The only thing that I would not wear this for is I feel like in the really high heat, I want to get like something much lighter, like a citrus or a mint or something like that. That's where I would put this away. But other than that, this is any seasons, day or night, either way. It works for, you know, casual wear to wearing it right up to a tux. I'm staying in, I'm going out, I'm going to the movies, I'm going to the bar, I'm going to, doesn't matter. This thing is day or night, doesn't matter. And that goes to versatility. It is probably one of the highest scores I'm going to give for versatility. It's super high. You really don't need to think. If you want woods, and more specifically sandalwood, and that's all you're itching for, this will do it for you. Performance. That's where this one's kind of sneaky. Longevity is 8 to 10 plus hours. Projection is average. So some wearings, I thought this thing was long gone. Poof, next morning, it's as big as it was on first application. So this is a sneaky one. I absolutely love when fragrances kind of, I'm like, oh, I got it now. But no, I don't. I don't have it. It really did well on my skin. As far as performance and longevity goes, the push on it, the projection, it has its good and bad days, honestly. I mean, really, it's a mixed bag. So I went with average, but I've had a couple days out of the 7-day wearing that, you know, people were smelling me from really far away. Then there's other times people couldn't smell me on this one. So performance is, it's a sneaky one. So my final thoughts. Is you can go 2 ways with this release. The one way is appreciate it for what it is, a simplistic sandalwood scent that was well done, or you can call it an overpriced woody base that is missing a lot to make it actually worthwhile for the price they're asking. At the end of the day, it's an excellent woody scent that I love wearing. And this is a case in point that, you know, I always poo-poo like brands like Xerjoff and by Kilian and the Free Bottle Brigade and all that, but at the same time, I will review them. I will give flowers when need be. And even fragrances that do get like a huge hype train, as this one did, I really put them under the microscope, but at the same time, I feel like this one is very much valid for the reasons I've stated in this whole fragrance review. At the end of the day, it's a perfect example, and this is where this just culminates this whole review, is that it's a perfect example of less is more. Solid scent by Kilian, and the more I wore it during this test drive, the more I enjoyed the small little things this fragrance gave me. And I don't think I have everything. Like when I'm, you know, in the mid, I was kind of thinking, is that amber seed? Like there's something in here that I still can't pinpoint, and I can't wait to discover more of it. I think it has more to give, even though it's a simplistic scent, and it's not as creamy or milky as advertised, which is interesting. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm done with Sacred Wood as of now. It's time for you to hit us up in the comments below. What do you think of it? Looking forward to reading those comments. This is a hype beast. So there is going to be some polarizing comments, overpriced, all that good stuff, but I'm on board. I'm on board on this hype train. I really absolutely love this one. I love the versatility of it, and I love just the simplistic portion of it, but at the same time, the hidden complexity behind it. So at the end of the day, a great pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.